What's great about owned media is that media is the relationship media. That's where you're building the relationships in a deep way with the people that follow you, which is different than the people that just stumble on an ad. That if you put things out there to all these different people, you grow a network that you can reach out to when you need them. Because I think a lot of marketing teams are very focused on competition. And so I feel like competition is a kind of a central way that marketing teams are thinking about, like, who is my competition? Because of it, I feel that they a little bit too stingy with the information they have. They're afraid that other marketing people will pick it up and they'll use it and they're going to copy them and take over. If you build a community around your brand, other people can imitate you, but they can't be you.
Kami, welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
Tell me a little bit about your journey into the space initially and then where you are now.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here, first of all. And really, when I started, it wasn't even a thing. People thought you were kind of crazy if you had a blog. So I launched a blog. Mostly I did it because I'd moved from the Washington, D.C. area to San Antonio with my husband. I was newly married. I went to town. I was really excited to start my business. I'd always wanted to start my own business. And I thought, oh, this is a great opportunity. So I started my own business in a town where I knew no one and I had no contacts. It was really smart. So one of the first things I did is I started writing a blog because I felt that that was a good way to connect with my own thoughts and to kind of grow. And I found out very quickly that it was a really great way to connect with other people that were like-minded, other bloggers back then. Social media wasn't even really a thing yet when we started. That was social media. We were talking about blogging being social media, which I think is funny now, right? Kind of quaint, right? So it was fun. But I felt like it was a really great way to build community. And that's where I really learned that community was such an important part of building an online brand, because that's pretty much what my experience was, right? So yeah, that's where it came from.
I think everyone will learn this about Kami. Kami's brave and she's bold. She gets out there. She walks the walk. And we're going to get into that later. But I love that you brought up the idea of building community. And I know that, like you said, it's central to your brand. So today, now I feel like more than ever, we're hearing everybody say, oh, you've got to build a community. You've got to build a community. And for the B2B marketing space, I feel like this is new. You're seeing more people adapt this near-bound strategy where they're trying to look for partners and like-minded people to join together in a community. So tell me, what do you think about community in terms of how people are trying to build them in the marketing space? And why do you think it's critical for marketing teams to be thinking about community?
I think a lot of marketing teams are very focused on competition. And so I feel like competition is a kind of a central way that marketing teams are thinking about, like, who is my competition? And they're very, because of it, I feel that they are a little bit too stingy with the information they have. They're afraid that other marketing people will pick it up and they'll use it and they're going to copy them and take over. Well, here's what I will tell you. If you build a community around your brand, other people can imitate you, but they can't be you. And guess what? You may attract people that I can't attract, and I attract people that you can't attract. We all have a place in the marketplace. Yes, we might compete sometimes for business, but I've always had the all boats rise mentality, and I've found that it has 100% made everything I do very successful.
When we're thinking about how to garner an audience around or a community around expertise or a specific topic, what are some of the tactics that you think are important when you're trying to initially, as a marketer, build that audience? How do I determine who I'm trying to attract and starting that beginning place of cultivating that online community now?
First of all, your audience is going to be different than mine and so forth. So you need to think about whose problems you solve. And so many people, especially when you first start a business, you feel like, oh, I need to go broad. I can help anybody do anything. And I'll give you an example because I do it too. We all do it. When I first started doing online training for a profit, so like I actually have the Smart Social Mastery group is a paid membership. Whereas, Social Media Breakfast, it's like show up, it's free, it's community-based, it's a little bit different. So if you're doing something like that, you need to make sure you're like, who am I trying to attract to this product and what problem am I solving for them? So the first time I stepped out in that space, I did just a course, like a social media, how to put your social media strategy together. It was 5 years ago. And I stepped out and I said, anybody can come, anybody can take it. And it was really fun. We had people that were carpet cleaners. We had people that were a guy who drove a party bus, a couple of B2B types like myself that are marketing, specialists that work with other businesses. It was like such a menagerie of people, which was beautiful. But at the end of it, I felt like I wasn't really helping them at the right level. Some were like more advanced than others and needed more help than others. So, I mean, we really do have to think about who we're trying to attract so that we can serve them.
Yeah.
Like serve them deeply and then get to really, really know their problems, what they're facing. So now, for example, in my mastery group, I think there's about 20 of us right now. The other day, I had them all on the call and I looked around the Zoom call and I looked at each person and I was able to call out each person and tell them what they were good at. We were talking about superpowers and brand voice. And I'm like, you're good at this and you're good at that and you're good at this. And I knew all of them specifically. Now, if you have a huge client base, you can't do that, but you kind of can. You can call out what that problem is that they're dealing with on a regular basis. And they're like, how do you read my mind?
It's such a good point.
Yeah. And do you see more power in small groups versus the larger groups? Because I feel like maybe it was social media, no offense to social media, that told us we had to have a lot of followers and a huge community because that serves the platform. But how has that panned out for you going, more smaller and niche versus going larger?
I mean, I've tried to do both. And honestly, I feel like that my circle of people, my circle of community is so much more important. And by the way, my community is consisting of not just my clients.
Yep.
Like my clients are definitely part of my community, 100%. I get them all the time calling me up and saying, hey, I want you to do that thing you were talking about the other day on your live stream for me. Like, can you come help us with our AI workflow or something like that? Because I'm kind of digging into AI now too. I'm one of those bleeding edge type of gals. Yeah. So, and they know that about me. So they're always like, hey, Kami, what are you thinking about this? And we're trying to put together our strategy. So I'm a strategist really at heart. So I would say go small to go big.
Love that.
Because guess what? If you go small and you really get a group of people that really believe in you and believe in what you do, guess what they're going to do? They're going to tell other people about it. They're going to tell other people about it.
And then it's going to organically kind of grow. And I think the goal is that the community will start to educate and bring in other community members. I think that's when it's like thriving like an ecosystem.
That's the way it works. I mean, I can only invite so many people. Take Social Media Breakfast, for example. After the pandemic, it was really hard to grow that group again because people were in their houses. They didn't want to leave. But right now we're really growing again. Why? Because I was inviting the same people. I was talking to the same people. Well, I had a big breakthrough a couple of months ago where I think it was like late last year, where I pulled up LinkedIn and a bunch of people said, yeah, I'm coming. It was like 50, 60 people. And I'm like, only like 10 or 15 are showing up. What's going on with this? I opened it up and then I opened up each person's profile and sent them a message and said, oh, hey, I see that you signed up to come and great if you're watching online, but if not, you need to sign up on the Eventbrite so we know you're coming so we can get a head count for the meal. Because we give free food. So I'm like, I need to know how many people are coming so I can order it. So that's not even a lie. It was just true. And so, guess what? That was the first time we had a huge showing.
I love I think that you have to be we have to look proactively at things like that. It's such a good point. Like we run these different plays and we think they're going to pan out a certain way, but because you were looking at your show rate, you said, I've got to change this up. I've got to act differently. And you really did something that is important, which is converting passive community members to active community members. So when you think about that, tell me a little bit more about different ways you've continued to do that. I love that example and using a really, like you said, practical, this isn't a mistake.
I mean, it's free, but it just takes time. It's kind of annoying, but it's, it's free. It also grows your LinkedIn profile in this case, because LinkedIn knows when you're having conversations with people on the DMs. And it's the same thing with Instagram, by the way, and all of the platforms. They're looking to see if you have a real relationship with the people that you follow. Do you talk to each other? Do you leave comments on each other's stuff? By the way, on each other's, that means you have to go out and actually put stuff on other people's.
Yes.
You're not just responding to things that come to you. Yeah. It's not about running another ad. Ads help, but ads are not like a relationship.
Yeah.
Ads are just, getting people to see you're there. Another example, I just thought about this the other day. There's some people that haven't showed up in a while. And one specifically, and I reached out to her and I said, hey, what's going on? And she said, yeah, I'm like branching out. I'm kind of going out to, and I'm like, that's great. I'm doing some other networking groups and so on, and going further afield because she's looking for a job. I said, that's great. I said, hey, would you be willing to be a volunteer for something we're doing next month? And she's like, oh yes, absolutely. So sometimes with people, especially in a community, you need to give them a role.
Yeah, that's so true. Wow.
I mean, people want to be needed and wanted. I was talking to my client about this. He's trying to get some people to join. This is a very B2B play, lawyers. He's trying to get some very busy lawyers to come onto a committee it's really cool. He's built this really awesome tool that's online, and he wants a committee of people to help run it, to help, promote it. And these are busy lawyers that make $500-$600 an hour. I mean, well-known people. And he's having a hard time getting them to respond to him, right? Because of course, I'm like, what's in it for them? And I'm like, we need to give them a role. You need to honor them or ask them to speak or give them some kind of role. And that works really well in B2B too. And I know that sounds weird for client relationships. I mean, you're like, how would I put that into place for a client? Well, how you do that is that you would call that client up and say, hey, I saw you guys were doing this thing and I'm really interested in what you're doing there because I think that you guys could do this, this, and this, and give them some advice that you're not charging them for.
Totally.
And then guess what? They may say, hey, you want to help us with that? You're like, oh yeah. Or they may just go out and do it. And then if they go out and do it and take your advice, then you can also praise them again and be like, you guys are so smart. I'm so glad you took that on because I knew that was going to work well for you. And they're like, yes. Who are they going to think of?
That works for my personality because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about why I haven't showed up to some of my communities. And it's because I'm a server. Like I want to be active and I want to be doing things. But there are certain times where I just want to go sit and, meet people and network and things like that. But I am, and it comes like after like 6 months, 8 months, you're just kind of like, it feels a little routine and I'm looking to do something more. And if there's a ceiling there, then I'm kind of like, what do I do? But that's just my personality. I wouldn't speak for everyone, but now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, that would work. If a community leader reached out to me and said, hey, Ray, I wanted you to come and do X, Y, and Z. It could be working in the parking lot for all I care. It's just something to like serve and give back.
And not everybody needs that. I mean, some people have different reasons for connecting with the community. And also, I mean, there's so many really great brands who've grown communities around their brand. Not everybody's going to need to do a big, huge community around their brand. It could just be the way that you interact with your clients. We just really are so passive.
Yes.
Because we're busy and we're tired and it takes a lot of effort. And so sometimes it's like, oh my gosh, I have to open all these things and like send an email to each one of these or send a DM to each one of these. And for social media, there's a word called social in it. I mean, that to me, and I come from a public relations background, that is two-way communication.
Totally.
Yeah.
The two-way communication model. And that was one of the reasons I loved social media, by the way, when I started, because I can only have lunch, dinner, breakfast with so many people, but I can scale my social media connections.
Totally.
And, yes, then you're going to want to take it to the real world. So that's the other part. Like, it's like the real world and social media should connect.
Yeah. And there's a big authority piece built into communities by naturally in being the power connector of that community. So what happens is our communities attract like-minded people when they're narrow and specific and you've gone super deep in your messaging. And then like you said, you in turn kind of get that intrinsic value of being that brand or that platform that has joined community, people together and helped them connect with other like-minded professionals. And so I love also what you said earlier about the fact that, it can feel limiting at first when you go narrow, but the idea is that you're able to go deeper and you're able to have really thoughtful conversations. And that makes this much more digestible. Like when you talk about the social part of things, I think it's so overwhelming for so many people and so many brands of where do I start with this? And you gave some really practical examples of like, who are 5 people right now in this community that I can interact with, that I know I can give a job to, give value to, give a compliment to, and just starting that workflow and building it. And it kind of brings to mind one of the things that I know you've done so well and helped other people do so well, which is developing the workflow and getting started with this. We hear it over and over from our clients, and I'm sure you do too, of I don't know where to start. I'm afraid to get out there
I like this part. I just like talking about it and getting excited, and then we're going to do it. But the execution always
we get hung
comes
up
for
there.
me.
Marketing teams get hung up there. Community leaders get hung up there. So let's talk about workflow. And the overwhelm of all of this, of starting a community, building an own media brand, getting your message out there. When you hear that, when I say the overwhelm of this, what comes to mind for you?
My life. I don't know. No. So when I think about overwhelm, I think about, honestly, I think that people are underestimating who they are generally because they think, what do I have to offer? This is boring. Like, what would people get out of this? Also, when am I going to have the time to get all of this done? That would be the next thing. So I think in general, you have to kind of have a workflow that goes around that. So batching content is a really important part of it, especially in social media. It's a monster. It wants, it's every week. It wants more stuff from you. It's like, dang, where's that going to come from? And it's pretty boring in my house. Like, you really don't want to see my wall again, do you? And like, talk to me again. So I just feel like people are very confused. Or do I really have to dance? No, you do not have to dance. You have to be you, because here's the thing. People, for me, especially in the B2B space, since that's where you're kind of focusing, I really think it's that people want to know who you are. They want to know behind the scenes, like who you actually are, not the scripted you, but the you that like is bringing something, your expertise to the group. So I am going to say that the first thing is to know who you're trying to reach. That's number one. And then think about 6 or 7 problems they might have. And then guess what? Take each one of those problems. So if I know you have 5 problems that I usually hear. So for my smart social mastery people, it would be like, exactly what you're just saying here. I don't have time. I'm a 1-band show. I don't have a staff. I am much more, and especially these, because I work with PR and marketing coaches and consultants. So dirty little secret, PR and marketing people don't like to talk about themselves that much. So that's the other part. They don't want to talk about themselves. They'd much rather promote you than promote them. Yep. It's absolutely 100% what the problems are. So I've just listed off 5 problems or 6. So I can go out and make a content about each one, like not feeling up to it, not how do I batch my content? Before you know it, I have 90 ideas. And I do this whole thing, content generator kind of thing, that we sit down and within an hour, we come up with 3 months worth of content ideas. Then once you have your ideas, you can break them down into like 5-part scripts or whatever. And then sit down and record them all at once or write them all at once, or short form video is really good. People are like, well, how do I do that in 30 seconds? I have a 6-minute thing. I'm like, what are all your points? Make each one 30 seconds. So think smaller, micro content, right? Especially right now, people are just not interested in like a lot of stuff. And if you create in like a day enough content for the entire month, then you don't have to think about it ever again as far as the content creation, just the interaction. And then go on to social media 20 minutes a day and interact. Pick your platform. Don't try to do them all unless you have a team, then you can do more. But for that, just do one. So pick. Drill in.
Yeah. And how many platforms do you recommend people start off on?
So first of all, if you have a brand, you probably should just go out and get all of the ones you think you'll ever be on so that nobody else can grab them from you. So the brand names are a big problem. And then you can kind of just drip some content on some, but you're going to go deep on one. And right now for me, it's LinkedIn, right? So right now, LinkedIn is my number one. And I'm working on Instagram. Instagram's never been my favorite, and it's so good, but it's just like, ugh, it's hard for me. But I'm doing better. I'm doing much better.
Yeah.
But so I'm really drilled in on that. For a long time, it was Facebook.
Yeah.
It was 100% Facebook because that's where my people were. So I go where my community goes. So you find out where your community is mostly hanging out. Where my community goes is one, and number two, where I can do it sustainably.
Definitely.
Yes.
Lots of very practical places to start. And this is why Kami's here.
Yes.
To tell us all we're thinking too big about it. And, I think you made another great point, which is we're huge advocates of like what we call media days. So it's like sit down, do all of your content in one day, knock it all out in one day and go in with a plan or half a day, right? And this is the time, call your social media person in to come take the behind the scenes photos, to, call your PR person to come get, additional messaging from you or things like that. But really, I think it helps too with focusing and like bringing the energy that people want. Like you said, in B2B, it is true. We buy from people we know, like, trust, right? And so the only way to do that right now feels like you've got to be on social media. And everybody says it. I know I should be creating content. I know I should be doing more. So in your view, tell me, we know that we should be doing this. So we know that there's benefits, but what are some of the long-term benefits that you see of having owned media content, especially in the B2B space?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question because it's really why I do it. You grow a community of people that you can count on. So for example, Rohit Bhargava is coming to town in a month, and he is coming with his book. He's a very well-known 3-time Wall Street Journal best-selling author coming to town, and he is going from town to town with Chase Bank. They've hired him to go from town to town to town to town and do this thing. I've seen his schedule. It's crazy. He went into LinkedIn, I think, and probably pulled up each city and said, who do I know in that city? Because he needs some people to come that are going to be advisors. So he does his speech, and on the front end and the back end of that, he wants people sitting outside to talk to the people about their specific needs. He sent me an email or sent me a LinkedIn message the other day. Kami, it's been a really long time since we've talked, but I know you're in Houston. I'm coming to Houston. Would you do this? I mean, there's no money in it. Okay. So I think a lot of people there would say, well, if you don't pay me, I'm not doing it. Oh, no. I do things like that because guess what? I'm going to sit down with 5, 10, 15 business owners. I'm going to meet the Chase people here in Houston. I'm just saying there's always an opportunity that arises. Plus, I'm going to have a really great connection with Rohit that is really amazing. I'm writing a book. What if I can have him help me write the foreword or help me? I don't know. I'm saying I'm not saying I'm doing it to get something back. I'm not. That's the whole point, that if you put things out there to all these different people, you grow a network that you can reach out to when you need them. Like he reached out to me, he reached out to me and I'm going to help him. And like, if I had to reach out to him, he'd help me. So it's reciprocal. So you need to show that you have that expertise. It's hard. It's hard for me too. I just had somebody tell me a minute ago, like, you're not getting out there enough. We need to get you out there more. Nobody knows, like, why are not more people following you? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no matter what you do, it's not enough, right? But it's funny because that person is now like in my court, and that person is now out there telling people about me.
Yeah.
And then guess what? I don't have to do the work. So I was telling you about social media breakfast growing slowly. What ended up happening right now is we're exploding again. You know why? Because people are telling other people to come.
Yes.
There's only one of me.
Totally. That's how we found out about social media breakfast. It was another marketer who said, you guys are opening a marketing agency. You need to go to social media breakfast.
It's kind of like 85% of B2B sales come from referrals and relationships. So I think it's like the same for a community. I'm sure it's not necessarily the advertisements that people see. It's that word of mouth from a trusted peer who says, hey, you need to show up to social media breakfast, So that's why I was like, oh, I got to look into this because of that person's authority and that person's trust that they had gained with me. You automatically had that, and we had never even met, but that's all happening in the background. That's the best type of advertising, you can do is have people who are advocates that go out and advocate for you.
It's 100%. I mean, so that's the whole purpose of community. I used to work for a trade association in Washington, D.C., and we did big events every year, and all of the members came and joined in. And I had one guy come up to me once and say, well, to make this worth my while to be here, I need to make about $500 per day. And I'm thinking, if you look around at the people around you and all you see are dollars and cents, it's a real problem because I would never send somebody to him. I would never refer him to anybody. And when people come with that attitude, I won't refer them. Same for you. I mean, it's just human nature, right? We only refer people we know, like, and trust.
Yes. Yep.
Period. Yep. And so I rely on that. I mean, my whole business is built on know, like, and trust. I'm sure some people don't like me. So for whoever you are out there, I get it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yep.
I'm going to draw and repel.
Absolutely.
I'm going to attract and repel. I'm going to attract the people I need, and I'm going to repel the ones that don't fit with the vibe of the group. And it's okay because they have their own groups.
I love that. Need to practice it.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the power in having knowing who you are, knowing who you're talking to, knowing what you want to be known for, and then creating a very targeted kind of specific community to attract like-minded people. And then there's something for everybody. That's really what I love about small communities, podcasts, things like that, is like there is something for everybody. And so it reminds me of what you were saying earlier, which is somebody's like, who wants to listen to me? No one wants to hear about the things I want to talk about. And I think that's a huge lie. I think there is a group of people who would, but the first step is getting out there so that you can attract those type of people. Why should companies prioritize creating owned media versus focusing solely on paid channels or advertisement or earned media opportunities? Like, why is this different?
Sure. So if you are doing paid advertising, what you're doing is you're going wide. You're trying to bring people in at what they call the top of the funnel, right? So you're bringing people in at the top of the funnel. They don't know you really. So they're going to go deeper with you. So usually the ad does not lead directly to purchase unless you're hitting them at an ad point where they already know you and like you and trust.
Yep.
So what's great about owned media is that media is the relationship media. That's where you're building the relationships in a deep way with the people that follow you, which is different than the people that just you stumble on an ad. So I feel like that's it. And you can use that over and over again too, by the way. That's the cool thing about media like that. You don't have to just use it once. It can be repackaged in different ways. It can be used in different ways. And so having a team that helps you get that out in a way that brings your authenticity out is great. If you're going to hire somebody, you need to have a relationship with that person too, because you have to trust the person who's interviewing you so that you can give them that information. So the other thing I also think when you're thinking, I'm doing an ad, it has to be on brand. It's like all branded, and really owned media is much more about who are you and what do you bring to the table? And when I say who are you, in service of the people that you're trying to serve. Again, I don't really necessarily care what you ate for breakfast, lunch, dinner, what coffee you have. But like if you're, talking to me in a way that makes me think, oh my gosh, you understand me.
Yeah. We want to be understood.
That's right. And so the person watching needs to understand you.
Completely.
And you could talk about how you don't like to be on camera. I think a lot of people would, connect with that, honestly.
We've covered a lot today. There's lots of actionable things that I think anyone who is trying to initially get out there can take from this. And that's in thanks to you and your amazing expertise. Before we wrap, I do want to ask one question. I always like to be, actionable, thoughtful with marketing and try to help us all challenge ourselves. If there was one question or one thing that you think marketing teams should leave this episode and ask themselves, what would that be?
I think number one is, have we talked to our client today? Have we talked to our customer today? How many of our customers have we talked to? I would almost start this with a reach out to the customer and talk to them about their problems step. Your current customers. So we were always looking for new ones. But what about our current ones? I just had one that called me up like the other day and said, "Hey, Kami, coming down." And I went down to have lunch. And at the end, she's like, she pulled out her credit card to pay. And I said, "Oh, no. She goes, "No, we're doing business." I said, "We didn't even talk about business. We just talked about our kids and this and that." And she goes, "Oh, we're about to talk business." And I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know I was here for business." And then she started telling me what she wanted. And so I'm like, wow, okay. So just having have you talked to your customers lately? And she told me deeply what she was suffering from and what her problems were. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can help you with that. Here's what we can do. So we started talking about problem solving together. So reach out to a customer today. How many have you done? How many times have you sat down with them and actually talked to them about what challenges they're facing right now, even if they're not in your area?
Mm-hmm.
When was the last time you talked to your current customer? There you have it, folks. That was this episode of Owned and Earned. Kami, thank you so much for coming through, sharing your expertise with us, sharing your stories. I hope that you enjoyed your experience today.